James Twin for the untouchable true school sports. Let's go, baby. Bow!
Be careful what you wish for because it can become a reality.
Yeah.
The untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing games are missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. All right, so I wanted to come give my thoughts on what was absolutely, in my humble opinion, it's not even an opinion, I think it's just a fact, the best performance, the finest hour in the boxing career of Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez. He had, for his career, I truly believe this was one of the legacy-defining fights, and in one of his legacy-defining fights, I think there'll be bigger fights on the horizon. But he turned in his best performance against a very, very tough Chris Billam-Smith. Chris Billam-Smith hasn't gotten the fanfare of a lot of other British fighters, but for my money, he's been one of the most reliable and consistent fighters, not just in the British boxing, but the cruiserweight division as a whole. So, he deserves a lot of respect. And in this particular fight, Zurdo, I had questions about Zurdo because in his only fight at cruiserweight, he fought a blown-up light heavyweight in Joe Smith Jr. Chris Billam-Smith is a stronger, full-fledged cruiserweight, and he's a proven cruiserweight with an amazing resume and CV to back it up. And every mistake that Chris Billam-Smith makes, he made him pay for it. Chris Billam-Smith, every time he would throw a left hook or right hand, he'd get off balance, and he'd put his head literally right in line with the Gilberto Ramirez left hand, and Gilberto Ramirez kept making him pay with the left hand over and over again. So every time Chris Billam-Smith made an error positioning-wise, Zurdo had to answer for it, and Zurdo had the better feet. Zurdo kept turning him. Zurdo was the ring general. Zurdo was able to outwork him, and it was a pretty clear, one-sided fight. When I watched it, I scored it 117, 111 in favor of Zurdo Ramirez. I thought he looked amazing, and Chris Billam-Smith, I know people that don't watch that don't watch the cruiserweight division, they may say oh well, of course Zurdo won. It's a Mexican versus a British fighter, and the Mexicans always get the better of the Brits, more times than not. But like I said, Chris Billam-Smith has beaten a lot of top guys that have been champions, top contenders, fights where he was supposed to lose. He's probably been one of boxing's biggest overachievers, because when you look at Chris Billam-Smith's ability, he really shouldn't even probably have the resume that he does have. So he squeezed every last ounce of potential out of his career, in my opinion, and I hope he can come back and be a factor in the division, because I think the division is better with Chris Billam-Smith than without it. But as far as Zurdo, when is boxing, like boxing world, when are we going to give Zurdo Ramirez his credit? Is it time now to start giving him his credit and his just due? Because I've said for years that I think Zurdo Ramirez is an underrated fighter. I think I honestly believe that he's not gotten the fanfare that he probably should get, because he's been in the era of Canelo and Benavidez, one Mexican-American fighter that have, they just got more fanfare. Canelo has a better resume. Benavidez definitely is more exciting to watch, but Zurdo has been old, reliable, and he's made a lot of history. He's made so much history for Mexican boxing along the way. The first Mexican to win a super middleweight title, the first Mexican to win a cruiserweight title. Now he's the unified WBA and WBO cruiserweight champion. Now potentially in a position for bigger fights. So he's a damn good fighter. The only guy he ever lost to was one of the best fighters in the world, which is Dimitri Bivol. And a lot of guys have lost to Bivol, and a lot of guys would still lose to Bivol. Guys that feature Hall of Fame, in my opinion. So in Bivol. So there's no shame in getting outclassed by a guy like that. But I respect him because he had the gumption to go challenge a guy like Bivol when he was at 175. He didn't do the Jaime Munguia where you stay in a weight class like Munguia was at middleweight, and you don't fight you don't even try to fight for the title. Munguia didn't even try to fight for a middleweight title. Zurdo at least had the confidence and the gumption and the wherewithal to say, you know what, let me test myself against the best and see if I'm good enough. And on that occasion he wasn't good enough. But I'll tell you one thing right now, If any of you guys have followed Zurdo's career over the years, how he made 168 all those years ago was always crazy to me, because he really wasn't fit for that weight class. I felt like he was always killing himself to make 168, and he still was able to become champion and defend it a couple times. 75, filled out a bit more, but still not quite his weight class. This, in my opinion, this is like cruiserweight is the Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez weight class. He looks filled out. He looks strong. He looks sturdy. He looks like he's full of energy every fight. He looks like someone that, is supposed to be a cruiserweight. And I remember years ago, like, hearing people at Top Rank talk about Zurdo and say that, he's really a cruiserweight. He should be fighting at the cruiserweight limit. And, years later, we finally get to see him at the cruiserweight limit, and he's an excellent fighter. And I think he's going to be a hard guy to knock off at cruiserweight. So it's good to see him in a weight class all these years later where he's not killing himself to make the weight. So now the big potential fight for him in the division, he is going to be Jai Opetaia. Opetaia is aligned with Riyadh season. He's fought on the Riyadh season card before. And everyone who knows anything about this division, it's pretty much a fact. It is a fact, until proven otherwise, that Jai Opetaia is the best cruiserweight in the world. He's the Ring Magazine lineal champion. He was once he once had the IBF title until or he might have got, I think he got it back when he beat Breedis. I could be wrong, but either way you cut it up, slice and dice it, Jai Opetaia, he is the most talented fighter in this division. He's got 2 wins over Ramriez. Breedis, one of the best fighters in the history of this weight class. So he's the guy you got to knock off if you want to be the man. And I think Zurdo versus Opetaia has become the fight to make in the division. It's all well and good for Zurdo. Joe Smith Jr., good fighter at light heavyweight, not so much cruiserweight. Chris Billam-Smith, overachiever, great resume, an amazing win, definitely a quality win on his resume for Zurdo, but Chris Billam-Smith doesn't have the athletic attributes of Opetaia. Opetaia, very fast hand speed. Zurdo will not have a hand speed advantage in that fight, and I'm not sure Zurdo will have a foot speed advantage either. But Zurdo, I do think, can outwork a guy like Opetaia, and I do think Zurdo could make that fight very dangerous down the stretch for Opetaia, because we saw in the Breedis rematch that Opetaia can fade down the stretch. So there's some things stylistically I think Zurdo can exploit, and it's a good fight, but he's going to go in as an underdog in that fight for sure. This is not going to be Joe Smith. This is not going to be Chris Billam-Smith. He's going to have to, he wins that fight, I'll tell you right now, if he wins that fight to become the 3-belt unified lineal Ring Magazine cruiserweight champion, then now we're talking about Zurdo even, like, now the resume gets even crazier. The resume is already good enough as it is. He's like, 40-1, 40 wins and only 1 loss to Bivol. First Mexican to be middleweight champion, first Mexican to be cruiserweight champion, unified cruiserweight champion. A lot of substance on that resume, but I think with that fight, if he's able to win it, that fight would make Zurdo Ramirez the best fighter in a weight class for the first time in his career, because he had a title 168. He was never the best fighter. He had a title, or he never became champion at 175 and lost to one of the best guys. And even though he's champion now, there's a very big dispute as to him being the best. I don't think anybody thinks he's the best cruiserweight right now. So if he beats the guy that people do think is the best in Opetaia, that really puts him, I think, on another level, and people look at him in a different way. But nonetheless, great win for him. Credit to Malik Scott and Julian Chua. They really came with a great game plan, and it seemed like Zurdo had every answer in the book for Chris Billam-Smith. So, the fight to me, it was a pretty good fight. Like, Chris Billam-Smith came to win. I don't think like he laid down or anything like that. And I don't always judge fighters off of wins. Sometimes I judge fighters off of losses. Like, how does a fighter act in a fight where it's not going well for him? And in this particular instance, on this occasion, I saw Chris Billam-Smith get battered and outclassed, and I didn't see him pack it and try to quit. And like, when I see that from a fighter, I can respect them and always have time for them. So I'll always respect Chris Billam-Smith, and I'll always have time for him just because of how he's acted in this fight and throughout the duration of his career. He's a credit to not just British boxing, but boxing as a whole, and we're honored to have him in the sport. So shout out to Chris Billam-Smith. Definitely shout out to Zurdo Ramirez on a world-class performance. And I think that Opetaia fight has to happen next year. I don't care when it happens next year. It just has to happen because that's the fight that's going to really put Zurdo Ramirez on another level if he can get over the hump and beat Opetaia. And I think he can because, like I said, in the back half of the fights, Opetaia tends to fade. So, you know, there will be a chance to exploit some things from Opetaia. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What did you make of Zurdo's performance against Chris Billam-Smith? And how do you think he's doing against Opetaia? Leave your comments down below. Make sure you guys take the time to subscribe. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Dania. So until next time, take care, guys. Thank you for watching another video on the untouchable True School Sports Empire. For more great boxing content just like this, make sure you guys click right over here.